I make a motion.
Do we have to give any?
Well, it's pretty easy to do. I mean, your testimony of the discussion was enough based upon the depth of the discussion. But it's also helpful to say that you would recommend the denial of variance because it fails to meet all 6 criteria and specifically fails to meet the least modification of the 6. Because I hear these all the time.
all that.
Let's be pushing it.
All right, Doug, let's do it again.
Oh,
You want me to make the motion? You say so moved.
Thanks, Dom. That'd be great.
So, motion would be I move to recommend the denial of variance. The reasons for the denial would be because the applicant fails to meet all 6 criteria for a variance and specifically does not meet variance item number 6, which is the least modification possible. The house is the garage is proposed to be in a location too forward and can be placed less forward and be lesser modification. That's the basis for the variance.
And I would add more subordinate because I think it looks very predominant based on. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. That'd be the motion.
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Tom.
So we may move on to item 2. 66 Conifer and new construction.
Would you like me to present?
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah. All right, 66 Conifer. So this is a 3,000 or 4,400 square foot house complete total. I did the review last week, a little bit late for the applicant to respond back to me and correct things. So there are a couple of things on here that the applicant has provided since I completed this staff report until today's meeting. So one is, which one is the front setback? So this property is set back away from the road and there's an access road going, I believe, through another property, maybe through National Forest right there, connecting to it. It looks like it connects on the north side of the property. So my initial thought would be the north side is the front. The house is drawn to where the front door is mostly east. So I know Bob mentioned last time that the front setback is usually more where the front door is. So I'm just need a little clarification from you of what you guys believe is the front and rear setback. If we do switch it from their plan, it puts their patio slightly into the rear setback. And I had a hard time getting an actual number to the roof line there. I believe they're right around 27, 28 feet, but there's a glitch in the way they saved the file, so I'm not able to scale it correctly with my tools. So I know the concrete patio extends into the rear setback if we rotated everything. And I don't believe the roof does, but the applicant is here, so maybe he can clarify that as well. The main roof is a double shed, 3 to 12. So that is another item to discuss that we've talked about rather extensively. Yeah, the site plan just wasn't quite clear enough for me to really make out the setbacks because the roof planes were not drawn on the site plan. I have no information on the foundation covering. It's a requirement in our code that no exposed concrete. Isn't it stone? Or is there areas that?
I believe the applicant can explain a little more further. And then I did have a color board, which the applicant has provided here visually in person for you to see. I just wanted you to note that there are a lot of retaining walls. Not that that really means anything, just for your information. And the wetlands was the big concern. Last week, I did not have a full engineered delineation report to really understand the boundary line of those wetlands. I do believe the applicant did create that, and I believe he has that for you today. But it is incredibly close proximity to the rear wetlands, very similar to another project we've been discussing recently. I believe those are my open questions. So last week I did not, we were planning to bring this to as a work session, but the applicant provided just enough information to where we should be able to make a determination.
I had a question with the plan and what's wetland, what's not wetland.
Yeah, so if you
So,
go to the site plan, there's a little dashed line.
yeah, but the dashed line, the
Yeah, and
directions-
why
is it on the south?
it goes right to where they have the grading marks.
Right, but my question is, if you follow that line, it goes all the way around the entire property. There's a dashed line.
Not the big dash line. There's a smaller hidden line up in there a little bit more.
I'm seeing this then. I can see it, it goes up here.
So it's a solid line
I just-
right next to the dash line is the wetlands delineation line.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not, because it doesn't change.
Oh.
This was added.
I had a dashed line with the same, across the whole property.
Yes.
It looks like we have two separate dash lines. So in the bottom row, it Y's off.
Right.
I believe the dash line that goes up is a long dash, long dash, long dash. And the wetlands delineation is a long dash dot, long dash dot. So those are two lines that overlap along the bottom edge.
So he's not in the He's, and we don't even have a regulation that says it.
But it looks like he's quite consistent.
Yeah.
So
Even
what
from-
is
even from
the
the area of disturbance.
Long dash,
I see the same dashes all the way around.
well, I see what he's saying, the dot,
But where's the dot?
right there. Tiny little dot.
So I
So
believe,
I see it now.
It's not a dot,
It's
it's like a.
dash.
I believe that's the disturbance zone.
I see it.
Long dash, long dash, long dash.
It's right, there's like 25 change off of their setback. So. And so full, manager, just full disclosure, I know this applicant as well. It's a small town. Kevin was a roommate of my brother's years ago and I met him, he's brought me firewood for a long time, so. I don't have any bias for or against this project. I appreciate Kyle running us through it, I thought it was super helpful when you provided those notes. I think they were handwritten maybe by the applicant. But, yeah, I just full disclosure, I know this applicant. So,
Me too.
there you go. So we're all in
And
trouble.
it's a good thing.
It looks to me like the rear setback, I mean, it's close, there's like 33 feet to the house, and then that entire patio, it's not 18 inches above grade. So it can be in the setback, and that roof, it doesn't extend over the entire patio. So it looks like they have just over 25. I used the tools, I saw the issue with the scaling, but if you take like 5 feet or 3 feet, which is a definitive measurement, and then you use, just a calculator.
Yeah, and
you can multiply.
I got there to be comfortable it's more than 25, but I wasn't confident enough. Yeah, and I like to see the roof panes on the site plan,
Yes, that would be.
because that's how we measure setbacks here. I don't know how you want to take this step by step. Which one's the front setback? Do you need the applicant to change that?
No, that's obvious to me. East side is front, garage door, main entry. They have that front setback by a mile.
Well, they have the north side indicated as the front setback, the 25 feet. The east
Are
side
they
is
calling it front? Or do they just draw a line at 25? Yeah, they just drew a line there.
25, yeah.
So they actually have about 10 feet additional on side setback.
Correct. So they could pull the house away from the wetlands even if we switch the setbacks.
How would that impact that septic though? That septic setback?
That's a consideration.
You didn't think from what you saw, though, there's no wetlands, right?
Well, it's close, but A, it's not in, right? And B, we don't have a regulation currently, we're gonna talk about that later, but we don't have any way. But there's no encroachment.
Oh, so I see, so that's
This is-
what we're looking at is rear setback is illustrated as side setback because it's illustrated as front setback on the north.
I think just by distance, what is that? Let me look at it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a marking. It's just they have the 25 and the 15.
I thought they drew a box of 25 all the way around. Oh no, they did go 15. Yeah, that covered patio is not entire. If you look at that rear or that side elevation, it's only partially covered. That patio doesn't appear to be over 18 inches. So that is allowed in a setback.
And I would agree that
It's
realistically, that's the rear setback is where the covered patio is. I mean, like you said, they got front setback by a mile. If we're looking at the east, it's the front setback. You know, we got plenty of room then on the north side, which was drawn as a 25-foot setback, but they couldn't move it anywhere anyways because of the septic. Yeah, I mean it's one of those like there's no platted road, it's just a driveway, like
it's private access.
pick your
Mhm.
pick your lot line as your front, you know.
You mentioned retaining walls in your comments, Kyle.
Yeah, it's just that they're substantial. There's a couple comments in the code saying that they should be kept out of the setback when possible, or some weird, like very vague statements about retaining walls.
Well, it says
Which
if
we've
we deem
discussed.
it necessary, then there's an exception.
There we go. Yeah, it's written as basically if you approve, they're fine.
Yeah, it's not prohibited.
The roof panes, I know we talked about this a lot. It's a double shed.
Yeah, so I was going to talk to Chris about that. I mean, we have approved 312 gable multi-pitch on our plan,
Right.
but the trustees
haven't done anything with it yet, as far as I know.
But I feel like do we have that authority? We've kind of made that call and they seemed open to it. We could definitely ask our legal counsel.
Well, technically, they haven't approved the change in the code yet, but I understand they are favorable to the ideas that were pitched. Change the pitch language, which is something that's on the list to be done. I think we have some level of confidence that's going to be changed. That's how strong the board was about it.
Is it in the works? Like, is that something that
It's on the list, but
Okay.
other things have become more urgent.
understood?
But it's not a difficult thing to do. It's okay.
Yeah, we've approved a project.
The board is let other projects with worse roof pitches slide by.
Yes.
So
I think it looks good. I think
Yeah, I
it's
like
got lots of detail in the front, you know.
Yeah, I like it.
The dominance of the
and
shed.
it's one of those like
It's
it's an aesthetic zoning code. Like there's no, does it look like it's gonna fit in the neighborhood? Yeah, I think it's good looking house, you know.
Yeah.
No, I like the lawn.
Can you get it to look like that? That's the question.
Is that astroturf?
That's AI. It's not real.
Just run a pump into the street.
Yeah,
Is there?
You know, and it's there's
they never look the same.
like the eaves, like it's not just a straight line. The eaves and even the one rake have some variation in lines to break it up, and that's the what that like we've been talked about, like what was the purpose of that code is to prohibit just a slab roof, and then there's some certainly some detail and variations like break up the lines, so it's not just one single.
Okay. I'll make the motion.
What other things on this list?
No, I think that's
He has the color board
Oh,
Yeah, there it is.
and the lighting. He's got
Front
it all.
doors not red, so that's good because I know we don't allow red front doors.
Put it in the file.
So color board, retaining walls we discussed, lighting, yeah, as long as it's, looks dark sky compliant exterior lighting. Looks like that's a downward covered light. The wetlands, they did provide that wetlands delineation, so.
I think the beauty, I mean, the only reason I feel, I mean, I have strong feelings about wetlands, but the slope of this lot, it's well below, the elevation is way above that based on that delineation report. I think 285 did it, and they did the last one we looked at, which was like wilderness.
Yeah.
They did a pretty decent job, at least outlining the concern.
Was the other thing that was noted was like secondary outside parking spaces. They really looked at that. No, yeah, because if we're, yeah, there's plenty of parking within the setback on the driveway on the side. Yeah, that's not even.
They have a 3-car garage anyway.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, it's still plenty of extra parking outside, snow storage. Driveway width looks to be acceptable,
It's one of the few that actually come in.
right? Well, it's just the start. That driveway, and then they turn around and the snow storage. Quickly, that's reasonable. 12 foot, so sorry. It's the minimum for,
12.
Is it 12?
Or is that say max?
So that's maximum in proximity to the setback.
I think they're 11 feet 11 inches at most.
Yeah, it's pretty much, 12 foot. No spots. I mean, that would be the only thing is that the bump out for the turnaround / snow storage.
Oh, you're talking correct. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they got the slope. Yeah, based on our code. Just checking that, so. This is unique. We don't often see these, a long driveway.
Anybody have anything else?
I didn't see it. I mean, once I figured out the scale, like.
I'm trying to make the motion.
No, go ahead.
You guys ready?
Do it.
Make the motion to approve Good Residence 66 Conover Drive as presented.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
When you resubmit for building plans, can you just indicate the setbacks? As front, rear, 25 on the sides.
Yeah,
Just rotate it.
just rotate.
Yeah, just adjust the setbacks, so
And you want the roof
clear.
planes too?
That'd be great, yeah,
Okay.
you can give me the roof planes on that set.
And then the coverage on the foundation just gonna be Z-flashing dimension siding on shorter sections of foundation that I
You're
expose.
just gonna side down.
I'm gonna side that to top of foundation and put Z-flashing over it. It's a low grade.
It just can't
The
be
rest of
post
it's-
concrete.
Yeah, the rest of it's gonna be masonry in the front.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, on to the work session.
Move on to the transitional district ordinance review for recommendation.
Chairman, you want me to make an introduction on what's going on here?
Please.
All right, let's start with the transition zone district, which has been on the books in Blue River for a long time. The reason for that original zone district was basically to zone large parcels of properties that may be developed in the future. And the intent was that the folks would come in and probably subdivide the large parcels into smaller lots. What the old Board of Trustees did with the transitional district, or TD, is they did not set a minimum lot size. Okay, put your head around that one. So when I have a TD zone property, I don't have to comply with any particular size requirement for the lots.
So the 80,000.
Does not apply. Zero. There's nothing that says I can't build 10,000 square foot lots or 5,000. I could put in tiny home lots. There's no restriction with regard to the minimum lot size in the GD zone district. And that is a problem. Because if you look at the larger size of properties that could develop in the TD zone district, you could see substantial density come off those properties by creating very small lots. That's a problem. The other thing it didn't have when it got adopted and carried through is it did not have a minimum lot frontage, or how much frontage do I need to have on a public street. Okay? So I could create a lot that only had 12 feet, and then it would go back and I put a tiny house. Do that over and over and over again. So there's a real risk with the TD zone district that we could have higher densities. The reason that the second part of this, the reason that the moratorium was put in place not long ago, was because of the idea that we did not have control over the density in the town. We needed to put a moratorium on subdivisions so we could talk about what would be the right size minimum lot sizes for things like the TD zone district. The problem with that is we never got around to talking about that, trying to fix what the TD zone district should be so we wouldn't have a substantial density and we could lift the moratorium to get subdivision. Because if we lifted the moratorium, people could come in and cut the property up in this very small piece. So these two ordinances kind of go hand in hand. The first one is adopting an ordinance that will set a minimum lot size and a minimum street frontage for the TD zone district. The board considered the issue and they said 4 acres is the minimum lot size for it's a larger piece of property. You have to have 4 acres, not 80,000 square feet, which is almost 4 acres for a lot. And then the second thing they said was a 100-foot minimum lot width for the property. So these properties are larger and they'll have larger lots, but they'll have the same lot frontage required in the R1 zone district, which is 100 feet. And you won't see any 12 feet, tiny ones. You'll see 100 feet just like in the R1 zone district. So with that change, the board felt comfortable to adopt that change, and then right after it to eliminate the moratorium on subdivision, which is let people cut their property up. But then we would have minimum lot sizes of every single zone district.
So it's all 4 acres, no more 80,000.
No,
Just for
only with
transition.
the zone district.
Oh, just these
Our lot
larger.
space exactly like this, 80,000 square. These are TD lots in the town. There's not that many, but these lots must be a 4 acre minimum. The board liked 4. The discussion is because they'd rather in the future, if they talk about it, they can go down easier than they can go up.
Yeah.
So they said, let's put it at 4. If it's not the right size, when we start seeing development proposed, we could always lower it. You cannot, it would be difficult to increase it. So that was their idea there. But once the TD zone district's in place, they felt comfortable lifting the moratorium on subdivisions, which needs to be done because it's been in place for 6 years. And,
Why would you want to go like? To me, if somebody bought the lot with this understanding, and you educated us before that, one of the risks of real estate is things change, basically, in paraphrasing.
Yes.
But again, if I bought this 10-acre lot 20 years ago and the rule was 80,000, I would like for the rule to stay that way if it were me.
the rule is nothing. It's not
Okay, but the rule was nothing. But everywhere else in the town, it was 80,000. And so now you're going to say it's going to be almost 160,000. But we have the option to go lower if something occurs that would provoke us to do so. But I'm not sure what would provoke us to lower. And
it's just if you go with the 2 acre, then you're stuck. Like you're not going to oh man, we should have gone 4. Now this lot's going to get subdivided. So it's kind of one of those they need to get rid of the moratorium. They need to come up with some sort of definition of the transition district and impose some restrictions. So better than something like 4, something big, because it would be easier. Less you're going to have less pushback from people if you're gonna like, well, you know what, maybe 4 was too restrictive. Let's make it the same as R1. It gives that possibility. It's like reduce it. But, you know, it's just like taxes. Once you lower taxes, trying to raise taxes, like you know, it's hard to go back the other way.
Sure, I accept that, but I guess I'm feeling like it's 4 acres overly onerous. You know, if you owned that land, and I'm not sure, you know, where they are and what they look like. I don't know, it just seems like pretty big.
They're all this color shade, so.
I will make a caveat that perhaps not all of those are, there's 1 or 2 that are questionable,
Yeah.
whether or not they are considered transitional. But that are
But
currently shown as
there are
R1.
at least these.
But yes, they're at least the ones shown on the
Maybe
existing
a
map.
few are eliminated,
Yes.
you know. Well, this is likely gonna be
That is
open
open
space.
space. Yep.
And was this the one with the old property that transitioned to Blue River? Or with the base sold?
The one that Theobald is actually was just recently this one. Now that one I believe is still active.
Oh, that's the
Yes.
that's the spring. The spring's on there. They're not gonna let go of the water race there. They got the spring.
And again, I'm kind of just challenging, you know, 4, why not 3.5? Why not 2?
The board discussed all
Yeah.
from 2 to 2.5 to 3 to
And
3,
they felt that was the best.
all the way through it. They felt it was the right.
I mean, I was, you know, I mean, Dan and I have talked about this, and we were at the one of several of the trustees meetings, and like I feel that like 4 was good. You know, for these unique parcels, they're already large. You wanna if they do subdivide it, you want those
Keep them large.
lots to remain large. You
Do you
know?
know how big they are approximately?
The one by Blue River Road, I think, is 68 acres, and the other, I believe, is like 42. That's closer to the tunnel.
They do go to under 10 acres as well. There's quite a bit of variance. Variability.
Oh no, not a lot of it.
Most of it, I'd say the majority of it, looking at gray.
So, were you done with your presentation, Bob?
No, there's two things in play here. In Mr. Mann kind of pointed to one of them. And that is that, this is a fact of life and a fact of law, is that if you have no right to zoning. The fact that you have zoning your property and it says you can have 2 acres or 4 acres, or whatever it happens to be, if you don't pull a building permit, it can change legally on you anytime. Courts say you have no right to the preservation of zoning until such time that you vest your rights. You vest your rights to the building, okay? Getting approval in building. So that's just the way it is. Does it sound terrible that I go from 0 minimum lot size to 4? Yes, but there's also a second issue in play, and that's what we commonly call last in bears the greatest burden. Because oftentimes people who sit on their property and don't develop, and everybody develops around them, they load up the road system, they put a bunch of wells in the ground, they suck up the water, and now the town might have a problem and says, whoa, we can't continue at this pace in these kind of size of lots because the resources aren't there to carry it. So the law also allows us to place burdens as we go along on these properties that have not developed because we have limited resources. In this valley, it's pretty much going to be water and view corridors and the natural character that our land use code and the comp plan tries to go after. So you're basically zoning these properties to be consistent with these policies. If I slept on my rights and stayed at home and never developed, that risk has always been hovering over. The law says it should have grown. You can't have anything till you vest. That's the other one. That's my presentation.
So I just had a couple of things. So I support 4 acres, but I would like to go back in time. So the only concern I have here, and it probably is invalid because I wasn't at that trustees meeting. We weren't, it's an executive session. But the only thing, the reason we can talk about TD district, but really the reason at that time was single family lots. So in my opinion, we should have like no subdivision of any R1 lot other than like a vacation, an amendment, and correction, right? And then, I'm all in favor of that, but that may not be what the board, I don't know what the goal of the trustees is, and I don't know if you can share it with us, other than to lift the moratorium and to protect TD from becoming very small lots.
Correct, those two things.
That's it. That's the board's goal.
Your point is well taken about, we don't want R1 zone district properties to start cutting up. Right now, if you're below 80,000 square feet, you can't cut your property in any way, shape, or form. You have to have 160.
Understood,
Okay.
but we do have a few, and that was always kind of, it was always, how do we want, those really, we don't have decent reference in our subdivision that I didn't go through it in detail, right? Again, but I've seen it pretty closely a few times. But like steep slopes, topography, wetlands, etc. That really needs to factor in because, the reason, and specifically Luis Placer, that's what triggered this whole thing. And I know Doug probably remembers it, probably Tim does too. Subdividing an existing R1 lot was contentious in a neighborhood. And sure, you could fit it, but the bulk of those lots was just slope. So they had to crush them together, like Blue River Road, it's like, hey, get close. And that's the way that went, right? So, I mean, obviously the board is not concerned with that, but if we say, yeah, we're in support, but how do you prevent subdivision of R1? They may just say, we don't care. And maybe they already have. Can you?
We have not talked about that. If I made a sales pitch to them, if that was the goal, in other words, let's not cut up any R1 property, we would increase the minimum lot size to be equal to or greater than the largest of the lots. That would affect everybody within the town, the R1 zone district. So your property may have an 80,000 square foot minimum right now, but you're well below it. And now it's 100,000. Okay, it goes from 80 to 100. Doesn't impact, you could have divided at 80 anyway. Now you can't divide it at 100. So that change will only affect those properties that are larger. Where that number would be an evaluation of the existing lots.
Yes.
Yeah, so it would be greater than 50% of the largest R1 lot, essentially for them to do so.
Yes, correct. That's correct.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of tweaking R1. I think it's good where it's at. I think talking to those that have come before, it became 80,000 because they didn't want to see lots that were smaller. I've always been in favor of like a buffer or a buffer zone. So if we were to like annex properties on the perimeter of town, like up on, and what's the one above you? It's Golden something, Golden Crown.
Or up there,
802.
801.
801, thank you. Yeah, those, like if we could annex that as, here's what we offer as a town.
Those are those
Choice
10
Blue River.
15 acre properties.
Yeah, 4 to like 20, really, but yeah. And it's like, how do you maintain that buffer? Once upon a time, they adopted the RC zone district, like residential conservation, but they've done nothing with it, and they can't just arbitrarily apply it, right? That's a big process to apply zone.
You could change the length text of the zoning code, like add a new condition or requirement in the code. It's not a big deal, which is what we're doing with the TD's change. Okay, but when you rezone somebody's property, go from TD to R1, for example, or TD to RC, which was the idea. We created a new zone district. We're going to switch the TDs to this RC and make it could have been 4 acres at the time, but we don't need to do that. We can keep the TD in place, make the text change. If we rezone property from TD to something else, we have to provide individualized notice to the owners and a hearing. We do not have to do that for a change in the TD zone district sizes. That's not a requirement for us to send out. We still do public notice, but it's not individualized to the property owners.
That makes sense. I mean, even though, like Dan, your argument not change the R1 zone district, and it'd be great to see an RC district, but the fact that it doesn't exist, it would be like we're going to go out and pick people's properties that we want to like burden with this change.
Well, that's what I always, when they adopted
when
they adopted, I'm like, I don't really see it. It gives you a zone district so that if someone was annexing a large parcel, then they've got to pick from your.
Yeah.
Well, and also within an annexation agreement, you can do a lot.
And that's not.
You can do a lot of things.
And it's not uncommon during annexation negotiation to create new zones.
Totally.
But like for existing, so if we wanted to prevent existing R1, I think Bob's solution is really the only reasonable path.
Why isn't it just not allowing subdivision of R1? You just say you can't. So you can subdivide anything and people could still, then they could come in and say, well, I wanna rezone to something else so that I have that ability. I never understood it. You know, we have talked a lot about this over the years, right? But to me, right, like what we normally call subdivision, that's our neighborhood. But the word subdivision, based on our discussions, is like anything left over. So you could have chopped up a mining claim and that bit that's left over, that's a mining tract, like 16A, 22, 105, whatever. That's a subdivision. And so we don't want to limit that subdivision. We want to allow, and I like TU, and I like RC, and I like R1. But I just don't want to see zoned, I don't want to see R1s cut off. And maybe I'm the only one.
Keep it,
You know,
that's
Yeah,
enjoyable conversation.
Most of it will be interesting
Thank
to
you.
me, but I gotta go.
You just
Take
pull
care.
up the live stream on the drive home.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have that?
See you, Kyle.
Guy, right? Or no, I
Is
mean, I
there-
might
are
be
you,
just,
you know, we talk about it, but how many, properties even fit with?
we never got a hard number, but it's probably like a half a dozen.
I mean, it's mainly the East Placer. Maybe some of these in Bryce Estates. Spruce Valley Ranch, but they're already covenants prevent that. You know,
And there's
these,
some stuff going on in Spruce
mean,
Valley right now
if-
too.
any of these, like, I don't know any that are four.
I own
there's
one
two
that's
acres.
2.32,
Yeah,
and it's all
and
wet.
then the river easement protects that.
So
I mean, maybe these couple in Sunny Slope.
I'm pretty sure that
And then-
the one that is labeled Sunny Slope is now an open space.
Okay. And
So
then
it's like-
Oh, I know where that is.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big
It would be-
wetland in there.
it would be these,
Willowy.
but I think there's other with the, I don't know if there's a river easement, anything in Timberline Valley, and those are large.
There are consideration potentially as well.
They might also-
HOA, I think they have some other
They might be similar to.
restricted.
well, that was PUD, I think. I think that went PUD when that got.
Divided.
Yes, this map needs to be updated.
Well, I don't know even how accurate it's.
I mean,
gonna
it does,
Yeah.
you know, a couple of these in Silver Hills are suck, well, there's one in Cougar Creek Estates. It was quite large.
be. That may be HOA, I can't tell.
Yeah, the 97 South, but that's open space.
They showed one big.
Yeah, I mean, it's
space,
just
but I bet
really-
that's your
it
open
was-
space.
You don't buy
Those-
it.
those-
You wouldn't buy it.
No, I-
Why would you want to subdivide
It would be
it?
on kind of the south end.
Other than vacation,
When you go
correction, plat, like a plat amendment, vacation or correction. Aside from that,
That's a good idea. It's the question of how you do it. What's the best way to basically restrict the division of these properties, so-called subdivision of these properties, because they're larger than 160,000 square feet. The best way is to increase the minimum lot size. The second best way is to say, this is not done, I have not seen this very frequently, if at any time in Colorado, to basically say, this zone district cannot subdivide. I've not seen that, Dan. What you do see is larger lot size.
Right, yeah, I don't wanna get into tweaking R1, I don't think it's a good decision, but. You know, nobody else got an opinion, Doug, are you with us anymore?
You can also, Dan, you can also pass an ordinance that says, we hereby declare, this is not done anywhere that I've seen. I think you can legally. We hereby declare that the minimum lot sizes for R1 properties are as they exist on the state.
Well, that's exactly what I think should have happened, that's what I've argued here and at the county level, zone is plat.
Yeah.
Zone is plat. And that wasn't my
Size.
idea, it was my idea, but not my term, stole it.
Yeah.
But to me, like the county, they platted this county. And then they came in the 60s and they just applied districts and it was like, no, that's not appropriate. Not good, not in my opinion. I'm not gonna fight tooth and nail on this, but I think that to me that was the whole purpose of that moratorium, whether you believe me or not, because I was the one pushing it to the back. You know, and I just don't think it's good. I don't think that's good because I think really the steep slopes of Louise Placer were the purpose of those giant lots. Not because, but that enables that neighborhood to have $3 million houses. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with big giant houses on big parcels.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then the other thing, and I don't, obviously, this is something I like, but I think that TD district should have bigger than 100. So can I ask a question and you don't have to answer it? Did the board ask any applicants what they would like to see?
No.
Okay. I think 100 feet is too narrow, and here's why. If you look at Spruce Valley Ranch, we've got a lot of 4 and 5 acre parcels. Some are larger, some are small. But they have, like, first of all, and I think it's 16A360 TD, right? Talks about lot width, setbacks, etc. I think at least a 200-foot wide lot, if not a lot wider, because we're talking about 4 acres. So like we could draw squares, and I didn't because I didn't have time. We didn't get this till
I
today.
did.
Well, that's good. Like look at Spruce Valley; they're wider, and I think the setback should also be larger. Spruce Valley has like 75 front and rear and 50 on the side. You can always go smaller later, but what I think we're trying to do is encourage big lots with big houses, and I don't see anything wrong with that because I love our rich neighbors who pay for our schools. I do, and I mean I'll say it, right?
Well, I think there's logic behind what you're saying. And the board didn't talk that much about the lot width. I picked 100 because it's an R1. It's very common for lots. But your idea has logic because here's why. If you have an 80,000 square foot lot that has a minimum of 100, this is twice as large, theoretically. And so twice the amount of street frontage makes sense. If you want to recommend that change in the ordinance when it goes to the board, I will pitch that to them. They have to increase it because they do not specifically talk about.
I agree.
I agree too.
I wouldn't be opposed to 250 because if you look, but I mean, I'm not. I just quickly looked at it. Well, because I just quickly looked at the plat. I just quickly looked at the plats.
You I heard 300.
Can I get 300? Not 400 foot. No, I mean, seriously, but it's ridiculous. We don't want wedges. Like
No.
the way I view those lots, like if we want to talk specifically about around Blue River Road and those parcels and what I thought would happen there, it would basically happen the way it happened here in my neighborhood. I own both of these lots here and I live on this one. Look at this thing. This is 2.32 acres. If I had 3/10 of dry land there, I'd be shocked. So this is probably one of the first, if not the first subdivision. And so they just said, oh yeah, put all that wetland with them.
No, that was Blue Rock was the first.
I thought it was.
That's why.
So when you look at this one, they kept all that wetland. So, you know, realistically, I figured they'd chop a few lots out here and they just make them narrow, just like these. That's not really good land use. That's open space zone district in my mind. You know, and really that'll be our next discussion. But when we talk about subdivision, you know, we talk about dedication of like right of ways, roads, utilities. Well, let's talk about public benefit too, you know? So, I mean, that'll be a different thing, but I think the lots need to be wider because I don't think that that's good land use. If an applicant said, hey man, we want to keep it big, but we need, in order to make it viable economically, we only can get like 2 here and 4 here, and this is 68 acres. How about you give us something? Well, then we can always talk, like PUD, because we can do all kinds of things. So
I'll just jump back. Pitch them. I'll take.
like a width. I like 4 acres. I can live with it. I think I'd go 250. I'd go wider, but I'd like to see your squares if you got them.
Well, what I
Because
looked
I don't
up was a 4 acre lot with a frontage of 100 feet. How long would it be?
Right.
And it was 1,742 feet.
Yeah.
So to your point, you got like this.
Right.
You know, you're going to nowhere on this super narrow. Well, this was a rectangle, is what I asked.
So Bob, what do you think? 250, is that?
Well, I think it's smart to go up.
Yeah.
I think 250.
Well, like we say, it's, if you're at 2 or 100, it's hard to go up versus the other way.
But I think 250 makes sense.
Okay.
It gives them flexibility and some pretty big front.
Yeah, it's
A 4.
but
Well, no. This is what this should be, though. This shouldn't be whatever you think, whatever's on the paper. Like this is why you do this, to make good decisions and have a well thought out community, right? So, like a square at 4 acres, and I'm only trusting the first source, but I wouldn't doubt this accuracy. 417 feet square is 4 acres. So how narrow do you want it? I mean, we want some depth and potential.
So, I mean,
So
cut that in half. I mean,
two on
a two to one, 200. You know, that would give you 800 foot depth. So I guess it's not 2 to 1, it's 4 to 1 ratio.
A large portion of the city of Denver in the early years, 1900s, were 50 feet under.
mining. That's how, like, look at the town of Red Cliff. Those mining claims are crazy.
So going to 250, it would push it. It would be less than a 4 to 1, but not, you know, like, I mean.
I was told there'd be no math, but we could figure it out pretty quick and very.
So it would be what, 3 and 6 roughly. If we went, you'd have to go out to like 3 to push it out to 6.
Well, we can always say minimum.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Minimum is,
But so,
that's
yeah,
what we're talking about.
250.
So 2 or
250.
I'm open.
I mean,
I'm not
would be
putting a ton of thought into it.
250.
250.
250.
Sounds good. Sounds like a great number.
All right.
That's
And then 4 acres.
And I think we should talk about the setbacks.
I
think the setback should be bigger than 25 feet in the front and rear. Because these types of homes are gonna want it.
Right, push it back.
Yeah, but they're also, you know, they're very difficult lots with wetlands. Like that might make it, you know, completely unbuilt.
I don't wanna do that, but the question would be, how do you fix it if you make it too onerous and they're like, oh shit, you know, variance. Well, I mean, we're getting good at those, so.
But they're tough to get, which we need to talk.
Okay.
I mean, you know, the setbacks that we have on the books now are like, you know, what, 70% of the homes in Blue River are out of compliance when they were built by these setbacks. So it's already much more restrictive than how it has been when a lot of these places were built. And we're talking about a very few, very complicated properties. You know, the one that it's going to be open space, like. You know, for instance, if the deal decided to sell that to, you know, private development, it would probably be hard to push it more than 25 feet off of the easement on Highway 9 because it's a hillside. It would make it very restrictive. While I'm talking to the map, we're talking about R1 and lots that are potentially subdividable. This lot right here. It's for sale. 6 acres, over 6 acres. So with R1 currently, I mean, if you could figure out how to fit and section it up, you could potentially subdivide it into 3 lots.
And that's a big one, you know?
I don't know
Because
if
it's
it would
steep
be
as
possible.
Well, anything's possible.
Well,
You
yeah.
can definitely get one
But
up on top.
with the current setbacks and how could you pie slice that into 3 lots and put a home within a setback, and of course they're going to have to be 4,000 or 5,000 square foot homes.
I don't know that they have legal access, but again, that's not for us.
Oh no, well, I mean,
On Yosemite or whatever, that street, yes. But off Highway 9, the access control plan may dictate.
Yeah.
So they may not get, but they might. I mean, that's the whole thing. Those lots were left like that because they're steep.
Yeah.
And at the county, and I'm not gonna like beat the county's drum, but they're not gonna allow subdivision where there's steep slopes, topographical challenges, wetlands, etc. So that's how they get away from
you know, I mean,
being forced into it.
they could probably split it into 2, just like the adjacent lots did, and get 2 homes off of the road up top. And
That's the aircraft carrier, right? They're up above there.
Gas station?
Yeah, up above.
Yeah.
Let's circle back to.
so, anyways,
So
Let's
we're
just go to
above-
setbacks.
I was just going.
Yeah, no,
Thoughts on this?
I'm all about.
So we're at 250, 4 acres.
4 acres. You want to talk about setbacks? Because at this current setback distance is extremely generous. Would create, as you pointed out, would create an incentive to build foundation.
Agreed.
I feel like I would stick with Spruce Valley, but if you want to keep that 60% ratio, like rear to side, if you went 50 front and rear, then you're at 30 side. I don't like that as much as I like 75 and 50. Truthfully.
Perfect.
Everybody get onto the
They're
table.
coming for you, Gordon.
I grew up in the Air Force.
I'm not that, whatever they're flying these days, you know? Is it still, F-17s, is that the, or F-16? I mean, it looked like it had that wing.
So where are we at for setback shape?
Where are you?
Or where are you right now? Where are we currently? You said 25 and 15?
They were crib 25.
Still could be started today.
I'll just pull up 16A360.
And like Bob said, you know, we can set something and they can always come back for a variance this depending on the circumstances. And
I would match. I think Spruce Valley is very tastefully done.
yeah, I agree.
You know, maybe I'm
What are they?
a fool. 75 and 50.
And if due to the topography or the wetlands or whatever, then they come for a variance, and hopefully whoever's running the show then would see the hardship and make an adjustment that would work.
Yeah, but I.
Or is that, are we,
At 4 acres and those kind of setbacks that we're hearing right now, 50 and 25.
50 and 70?
No, I was thinking 75 on front, rear, and 50 on sides.
But I don't think you'll see many variances, because here's the deal. I come in and I ask you for variances to the side of front setbacks because I want to build a 10,000 square foot house. You know, you're going to say, well, it's not a community of 10,000, right? So they're probably going to be asking for variances to build substantially larger homes, and you'll have the control over that variance process to limit it. But I don't, what you're gonna see is properties come in at 4 acres, and they say most of the 4 acres is wetlands. And pushing my house over here.
Yeah.
And build a 2,500 or 3,000 square foot house over here by a little bit of the variances. That's okay. But if they come in 10,000 square foot because they need a little extra relief, so you're gonna see that.
what the direction we're giving you now, you're pitching that to the trustees.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, looking at
the
the lots that are on the TD.
75 front, back,
They're
and
challenging
50 sides.
lots, a lot of
What
those
do you think,
wetlands.
Gordon?
I don't know if.
Or do you think that's?
Honestly,
Yeah,
I think that if I was.
You're comparing to Spruce Valley Ranch, but those
You're right,
are
but
nice
these are
lots.
not
They're
church
kind of
lots.
high school.
You know, I think it's
not
this.
I mean, there's a lot of variables there. Each lot.
So it's 4 acres,
This
it's
is
a lot of
really-
land, but you know, there's.
What
like,
these
you can
guys
be-
gonna do?
I don't have one of the wetland issues, but to your point.
I see.
back in variance. So
Right.
in some ways, I'd rather start high.
Yeah.
And
I-
let them come back.
I encourage that. If I was a planner,
And do Spruce Creek, it does seem like a wonderful.
This is the one that we know.
That's the three of us make people.
I think
I got- I have
250, right?
But even this lot. River is, well, I guess there's not a river easement there, but wetlands, it's like, there's not a lot of room.
Yeah, I've heard he wants 4 lots.
Yeah,
Yep, 4 lots.
there's not a lot of
So-
room for setbacks. You know, what's the acreage on that?
He wants 4 and they're over 80,000 square feet each,
So.
but he doesn't have access.
Brownell.
So he's gonna go out and try to get access to a public street. And
So-
once that happens, he'll come for subdivision.
Yeah, so he's at 10, just over 10 acres.
He's in the TD, so he'll have two lots.
Yeah, so right now where it's like, potentially you could try for 5, but there's not enough dry land there. Right at 5. I think the 4 acres already is gonna, prevent it to be 2 lots, like Bob said. His, access, he's gonna have to get it from SVR.
And I think they'll appreciate those lot sizes.
But like, he's surrounded by national forest and then wetlands.
Wetlands.
And then Spruce Valley Ranch.
What's that, yeah?
Well,
I
the
don't
problem
know
is we're
what's
talking
the-
about
That's Spruce Valley Ranch.
here.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're not.
Yeah.
We're not.
You can
talking
get on the
about
dead
wetlands
end where you kind of,
but I
when
know-
you walk from our house
Well,
down in
it's like
Spruce Valley, you walk onto that
does
old
it
asphalt.
need to be
That's Brownell.
because is
That's
there
who?
any,
Brownell
I'm looking
Bailey.
at like, is it gonna affect?
He used to be on the
what
board
lots
years
do you
ago.
know?
With
Yeah.
that.
It's a good,
And
That's
yeah, that's the one.
Before you-
The others are mostly what?
And he
what's your opinion, Bob?
has like another
I
17
think you're
acres
right
further
about
up
the
towards
fact that lots, most of these
shooting
properties
thing.
in the TD
Oh,
zones
really?
haven't developed because of the difficulty.
his
So
wife
if you set a really large setback
Maybe
requirement,
his wife
with
was-
the difficulty that they have, you're gonna see.
what's
lots of
his name,
variance.
sister or
You
something.
can build something like 3,000.
Who's the guy that had a place up there? That
Someone
was
from coming in here though,
part of Weyerhaeuser.
and just saying, I wanna go PUD.
Oh,
I'd like to do a planned unit development and apply for that. Why would you not? That's what I would do.
One of the big risks on zoning is that it's a legislative decision with full discretion by the board. So there's a real good chance that you wouldn't get a PUD approved unless it was more generous to the community than the zone district that currently has. So in other words, I want to go from 4 acres to 6. You know, that my PUD.
Well, that's it.
That's okay.
See, I'm not trying to limit these folks from, like in my mind, I could live with 2-acre lots there. I can,
We're talking about.
right? I totally can. But I'd love to have that. I just don't know if we'd ever use a TD the way I'd like to see it, like annexing, somebody in and saying, well, we've got a placeholder for you, transitional. You can just be 5 acres right there. It's gonna be great for you.
well, let's.
Yeah, let's.
I think Bob has it now. 4 acres, 250, 75 front and back, and 50 sides.
I think it's gonna make it hard.
Do we have to vote on that, or
Yes, that's a recommendation to the board.
Make a motion to.
I'll make a motion to what
What you just said.
what
Hold
I
on.
just said.
I just wanna add, so sorry, Doug, I know, we're losing you. Come on, give him some, juice him. Are we able to go in there and speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Are we what?
So I'm gonna do
As long
that.
as you say you guys are okay with people speaking.
Well, we'll wait till, I wanna go in there, and I mean, unless you oppose it, kind of voice our discussion. And basically, I'd like to argue, unless Bob's gonna do it for me, I don't see any reason why we're gonna allow subdivision of R1. And I don't wanna touch R1, because I think it's just fine the way it is. I like zoned as platted. I would beat the drum from here to,
I
I
agree.
agree with
How
that.
Yeah.
how we would do that is you vote for the recommendation to approve the TD with those conditions on it. After that, you'll make a motion to appoint Dan as your representative to talk to the board on your behalf.
Okay.
That's the way he can stand up here and say, I'm speaking for the planning commission. Opposed to him coming up.
I don't think any of us are opposed.
well, you guys don't have to just go along with it, because I got a big mouth.
No.
I love you, Big Tom.
If you're gonna do it as a representative. As opposed to-
So what we're talking, I said, I'd love Bob to go in there and beat the drum about no subdivision of R1. But maybe I go and I do it. What are you guys comfortable with me doing that on behalf of P and Z?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And also authorize him to speak as to the 4 acre 250, 75.
One question about that, are there any R1 lots that are greater than 4 acres currently?
This isn't TV, we're not
I know, but I.
Yes.
So we're gonna hold the R1 more restrictive than we are the TD.
Gordon's, this lot right here, 6 acres.
So yes, we would.
Undeveloped 6 acres. And there's 4 acres, 4 acres, 4 acres, 4 acres.
Yes, we are holding them more restricted. correct?
They're
Yes, that's the way I.
The reason we have subdivision of existing lots is full on because when we looked at Ruby Placer, 14 years ago or some crazy thing, we were told, oh, we've got to allow subdivision. The reality was it was an annexation agreement. We never would have had to do any of that. So we never, in our history, have not allowed. Like shopping. We've certainly allowed like plat amendments and corrections and vacations and lot lines, but.
Okay, so we
it's up
have
to
a-
the board, but yeah.
We have a motion for the 4, the 250, 75, 75, 50, 50. That, and then, is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then for
I
Dan, the
Dan's, existing R1 staying at what they currently are.
As platted.
I'm just
That's
gonna
fine.
lobby it. They're not gonna buy it. I got Bob against me. He's not making smiley faces. I know that.
So, So that we aren't voting on that, we're just giving Dan permission to go and speak on our behalf.
The motion, we appoint Dan as the board, planning commission's representative to speak to the TD zone district changes, as well as, changes to the proposals with changes to the R1 zone district to ensure the properties do not develop or do not subdivide in the future.
What was the word?
I agree.
As,
So,
which,
what?
what he said.
So
moved.
So moved.
Basically,
So
you're
moved.
making a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
You can second that.
Or second that?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
There you go. Dan will stand up and say, I'm here on behalf of the incident.
Yes, guys, so that's that. So now we're at C,
Yes, see.
setbacks and wetlands determination.
Oh, wait, more.
I guess becomes.
So can we talk about one more? Repeal the moratorium on subdivision?
I feel like we effectively combined A and B.
That's just kind of.
We just did, right?
Yeah,
They have to do A to do B.
Absolutely.
And B has to happen.
Where I'd love to see one thing added though. Under public benefit. 16B230, all we talk about is dedication for utility and other services. Most communities typically, I mean, you don't have to force it, but you have the door open where it's a little bit like, hey, you know what, I'm willing to give some public open space here along the river or whatever. What do you guys think about that? When someone's coming in for a subdivision, I'm not trying to strong arm them, and you don't have to require it, but you're not going to get too far elsewhere without some sort of public benefit. What is that other than tax dollars? What do you think about it, Bob?
Well, one of the conditions, one of the legal requirements for placing conditions on development property is that you have to have both a rational basis and a reason why you're asking for it that's based upon the development site. So it's going to be a difficult regulation. It's done in other communities, but it's a more difficult regulation to say, as a condition of you approving, you have to give us part of your property. You have to tie that request, that if it's a demand, to the development forcing the need for that property. Let me give you an example. Property comes in and wants to develop. They don't have a road that leads to them. So you tell them they have to dedicate a piece of their property for a road. That works because they need to have the road in order to develop the property. It's what we call nexus. There's the nexus, a connection between what you demand from them and the development. Development requires that requirement. And here you're saying, just because you're developing, you've got to give us a piece of your property. It's a difficult nexus to address.
How are they all doing it?
It's an across the board open space dedication, and they have a comp plan that says we don't have enough parks, or we don't have enough open space. We have a standard to meet, and you got to meet the standard. We have to have a policy in place.
Every one of our subdivisions has pedestrian easements, river easements. So it's just following suit.
Well, give me a policy statement in the town that says that we're undersupplied, and therefore give me an idea. The best standards for this, what we're talking about, is a parkland dedication requirement. Any development that comes in has to contribute land for parkland, because we had done a study that says we don't have enough parkland. And the parkland ratio is we have to have 4 acres for half an acre for every home. So you got to dedicate that to us as a condition of development. And they say to you, well, I don't have enough space to do that. You do what's called a fee in lieu. They pay us to go buy it somewhere else, right? These are complicated regulations to do. It's kind of sophisticated for a small town. It can be done, but we've got to tie everything together to show that we have an underserved demand. Okay, and so if it's open space, when you have a standard, we demand that we demand this much open space in the town per lot. That's our standard. So when they come in with a new lot, they have to meet that new standard. They have to help you add open space to it. And that's a complicated thing to do, but it can be done.
Also, is fee in lieu a allowable source of revenue for a statutory town?
Yes.
Okay.
Having cans.
Or
Having cans.
And understand this, when we see things in the past, like counties are notorious for this, requiring dedication property for no reason. I mean, I have dealt with so many counties that have these old antiquated requirements and people don't question them. Developer comes in and says, well, I get to build a lot. I don't care what you're asking for here. You can have it because I want proof. I want approval. It's illegal. And counties are notorious for that. And
We're driving that
Arapahoe
way.
County's the worst.
Which one?
Arapahoe County.
It's a little coercy.
It is. Or trade you approval.
I know that they can.
That's your opportunity right there to get it though, you know? Because you're never gonna get it otherwise, you know? Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
So now we're on C.
Yeah, baby.
I can talk about the wetland issue a little bit. So you guys have three different documents in front of you. We've got Breckenridge and the county's wetland or environmentally sensitive area pieces of the regs per Dan. So what I had done actually before Dan had sent this out is tried to do a little bit of research, and in doing so, I had a couple goals. One, that we want to create something that's specific for our town, and possibly, Breckenridge and the county may be models for us, but maybe not. Something that's concise and simple as possible. Something that's effective. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to protect the natural resources, but also balance it with the ability of people to develop their property and have sustainable growth. And then whatever we create, it needs to be enforceable. Ultimately, there's going to be trade-offs, and no matter what we do. And so with all that, what did I do? I turned to AI. And so if you look at the one thing here, this guy, I wrote the question that I queried ChatGPT at the top, and I was pretty amazed at what it gave me. It was a bit more complicated than I had anticipated, but as I read it, I think that there's a degree of complication here that's required. Anyway, so in that document, I highlighted in red areas that I wanted to get some feedback, and my plan was to get some feedback from you guys tonight, and then to go and basically rewrite this, spruce it up, and then give it to our committee to vet more formally in total, and then give it to Bob. And so before you look at this whole thing in total, a couple areas that stood out to me, and also relative to Breck and the county, were the following. AI spit out this 100-foot kind of setback buffer, and I'm going to use those terms right now kind of interchangeably. It seems that Breckenridge and the county is using 25-foot. And so one of the things is how much of a buffer or setback do we feel is appropriate and necessary for wetland? So again, AI is recommending a lot more than what our community neighbors have done. So that's something to think about. The next thing was the definition of a wetland. And to me, that's, I think, super duper important here. Folks turn to Army Corps of Engineers. Army Corps of Engineers, as I understand it, I don't know, they may have never surveyed this area. Maybe they did 20 years ago. Maybe they did yesterday. I don't really know. Generally, the wetland surveys are good for 5 years, it looks like, looking at these various precedent out there. But again, here in AI, they're talking about National Wetland Inventory mapping. I'm not an expert here. I didn't look up that one. Whether Colorado has any specific stuff, I don't know. They go back to U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And I think why people end up at the Army Corps of Engineers because they have a methodology in how they designate wetland. And then you can go and get your qualified wetland professional. And that really intrigued me. And I think that end of the day, you probably need to agree, we need to agree, who's the gold standard here? Who's gonna designate what the area is today? And I think ultimately that would be a qualified wetland professional. What the criteria that person has to meet, who chooses them, who pays for it. It seems like it's typically the applicant that pays for it, but maybe we choose the person. I don't know. So that's, that definition I think is really crucial for us to decide how we're going to define wetlands. And again, back down to the buffer area. And in the AI, they didn't lump all wetlands in one category. They had high value wetlands and other wetlands. Do we need to do that in our community? Not sure. Something to think about. Next, if you move on in the highlighted red was the construction measures. And this I need you guys, that are in construction. As a layperson, I see the little black, 2-foot barriers, which kind of gives me a sense of security. I see areas where we don't have it and there's trash in the stream, which really disturbs me. Okay, what's really effective? I don't know. Is there any data out there to say what we should be, requiring you to do when you build? I don't really know. The little 2-foot black piece of plastic looks great. Do you guys have any information for us of what has been proven to be effective? The monitoring, we're a small town. I think we got to put that burden on the applicant, which is what this recommends. And then lastly, my last point here is this restoration of vegetation. AI pulled out, that the person had to basically get 70% of the original vegetation back within 2 years. I think that sounds a little bit too specific for me. But for example, I didn't know if it was the county or Breck gave 3 years to revegetate the area in our environment. But, what do they have to do and how are we going to measure that? How are you going to enforce it? Anyways, what I'd like you guys to do, and you don't need to do that now, but is to take this home and look at those highlighted areas. If you have comments now, give them to me. If not now, send me an email. And then again, I'm going to incorporate that. And, parts of the Breck and the Summit County that I thought that need to get incorporated. One, probably a smaller buffer zone to be more consistent with our neighbors of 25. Army Corps of Engineers, when you do the survey, the town of Breck requires that you do their environmentally sensitive area surveys only in June, July, and August. So now you recommend that or require that potentially across a whole season before somebody could start building. Do we want to be that specific? What else do I got here? And then like the county talked about a 25-foot buffer zone, but also that you couldn't have a basement if you were within 100 feet of the wetland. Do we want to start being that specific? I would think not. But Dan, you had mentioned some concerns of, a lay person building a house right next to wetland and not putting proper footers in. Should we be regulating that more at our level? Not sure. That's kind of my summary. Bob, at some point, I'd love to hear what you think about AI and the legal profession. So again, if you can give me a little bit of feedback and I can kind of work this thing, massage it a bit, and then we can really, see whether we can put something together to pass on to Bob.
When we first, when this first kind of came up and, we're under the gun looking at the project, my initial thing was like, why don't we have a 25-foot setback from wetlands just like we have a front and rear setback? That seems reasonable, significantly more than no protection that we have currently. My other comment would be, following what is, the work that the county has already done, utilizing some of their text and also keeping it relatively consistent. One will make it easier for architects and, builders oh yeah, we understand this. This is what we already have to do in Summit County. I think that makes a lot of sense, especially as a, small municipality, like how much time and resources do we have to come up with? We don't want to reinvent the wheel. Like we have a document that like, hey, you know what? Summit County's, code on wetlands, this is really good. This, maybe we want to tweak something here or there. But I think, following a plan of for Summit County, I think makes a lot of sense for us as,
And to your point, like if you feel like I should use this as the scaffolding and put the AI stuff that I like into that versus use the AI as I'm good with whatever. And I did read these pretty quickly. I got to say that the town, rec and the county, some of it again, it doesn't apply to us. Like I saw some of the stuff in the rec. It just I would think. Again, and I would think in the county too.
I would think the county might be a little, there's more, rec is a little more concentrated and might have more specific requirements. The county, it's all the way from Hoosier Pass to Heaney, so like they're gonna have, need to account for a broad range of, circumstances.
And I think they have more resources.
Yeah, I think so. Looking at the county code probably makes a little more sense. Reading through, the revegetation plan. They do mention 4 years, but that just means they shall inspect periodically for 4 years, but it's, there's no real time frame on it being revegetated. But the soil disturbance is prohibited within 25 feet of a lake, stream, or intermittent stream, except when approved by engineering department. Something like that. Obviously we have some homes currently that are closer to a lake than that, but some of the other stuff that let's see, there was required buffer of 25 feet. I think that makes sense. It's in alignment with our front and rear setbacks. I think that would be reasonable.
Does it matter if we refer to this as a buffer or a setback?
No, they have the same purpose.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable distance. Additional. There's a line there for additional buffers, based on some other requirements there. One of the things I did note too was let's see here on page.
If you look at the county.
Yeah, probably. Oh, yes. Page 2. 7103. Placement of cantilevered structures, which we have, encountered here down. A cantilevered structure may overhang the streamside buffer, but not any required wetland buffer per the wetland regulations as set forth in 7105. As long as no disturbance occurs within the buffer area, floodplain requirements are met. The approval is granted by engineering.
So I can live with anything that's not nothing, but I would say, I appreciate you going through what you did. There's a lot here, and it might be too onerous for our small lots. I think there's a couple of key things, and I talked to Gordon before the meeting. I talked to Tim as well, but I think Tim brought up I think Tim and Gordon both, we talked about what triggers it, right? What is going to trigger it? Are we going to look at National Wetlands Inventory, or is it going to be based off a site inspection? That's first and foremost, what dictates it? Because we don't want to just make everyone come in with a wetlands delineation because it's unnecessary. But so one, what's going to trigger? Do we have to wade into environmentally sensitive areas, high quality versus low quality? It would be wonderful. but I don't know how complicated we want this to be because we have limited staff, okay? I think Tim and I talked about elevation. So to me, it really matters, like that one applicant tonight, like there was some wetlands, they were feet below, and it was way below on elevation. So you're not gonna be, when you dig at native grade, even when you go down 5 feet for footers, you're still not even at the top of the water, which is like many feet away. So that's less of a concern in my mind than if I am at or below the grade of the water. Because if I dig right here and water's right here, it's coming in. How do you manage that? Yeah, there are construction management practices, but is that what we want to see? Like, do we want to see that? Because that's not really wonderful for the environment. So, like, I think it needs to incorporate some sort of, and I don't know how to do that, but, you know, when elevation is a consideration. So I think really, I don't hate 25 feet, but I would say that I think it's too onerous in the town of Blue River. You know, the width of an excavator, I do. I think it's too restrictive. Unless we go into this with an open mind, and I'll point at this, and I'm all for wetlands, right? But Breck, at least, and I didn't pull these all apart, because I could have conglomerated this and come up with something and handed it to Bob and said, let's do it. But I'm not gonna waste my time because he's gonna run it anyway. So I've already tried that, and it doesn't work. So, you know, one of the wonderful things I think Breck did here is they've right in 7.6.1 setbacks. They talk about exceptions to the setback requirements may be allowed if one of the following conditions is met and approved by the town engineer. Obviously, we don't have a town engineer, so we'll have to, there's different criteria there. Maybe it's planning and zoning, maybe it's a qualified professional. I don't know. But development sites with the most recent plat being recorded prior to, and there's a date and it can be whatever, for us. But and platted in a manner which does not allow a feasible development option meeting the 25-foot disturbance setback. I could live with 25 if we had that in there. I really think even 10 feet is a hell of a lot better than the 0 feet we have right now.
Sure.
Because to me, you know, if I have like a high quality wetland and it's delineated and I'm holding you 10 feet back and that's where that black fencing is, you can't disturb it. We're not allowing any disturbance, soil disturbance on that side of the fence. So you can run your excavator there, right? I don't know, the excavator is like 9 or 10 feet wide. You're gonna be over there in that little bit of a buffer where you can't develop. You're not gonna be into the buffer because you can't disturb. But you're then developing and digging and you're not impacting it nearly as much. So I think like 10 feet, maybe half of what the county has, 12 feet, is probably enough. But if like everybody wants to see 25, as long as we have language that I think is pretty decent here, like and accept the ability for an exception if it does not allow feasible development, right? Because that house that came in here, whatever, 2 months ago, no argument, that lot can support a home. I was of the opinion that I don't think it could support that. To build within a 1/4 inch of that high quality wetland is not appropriate land use. None whatsoever. So, you know, I think I can be swayed, but like who's gonna do the site inspection? Like who's gonna dictate you need as wetland delineation? Are we gonna just rely on like federal mapping? Because there is federal mapping, but it's pretty weak. Like I
Well,
looked at
that's
it.
what Gordon said, you know, who knows when that mapping
Right.
or tests or whatever were done, they could have been.
And then I forget if Breck or the town or the county, I thought said too that if like somebody, it was very loose. It was just somebody's opinion. Like one of, and I don't know who they gave that authority to, could go out and look at the site and say, you know what, I think this needs what is how I interpret it.
Probably the town engineer though, you know, like so they have staff with like PEs. So they can go out there and say, yeah, this is high quality like epipinon or whatever the term is that
So can we,
dictates the fence.
if there's any question, can we require the person that's possibly building, require them to get somebody off of a list or 1 or 2 that we know is reliable to make that call that we trust. It isn't.
Typically, what is done on this issue or any issues like it is that you pick the credentials that somebody has to have. You don't tell them
Credentials, not an
Jane or
individual.
Jack, or you say,
Yeah.
you have to hire somebody who has these credentials.
Credentials, right, okay, that makes sense.
That's common. Okay? The real creative one, especially for a smaller community, goes like this: that you hire, town hires, a qualified wetland specialist engineer, and you call him your town wetlands engineer. Okay, and the applicant is required to communicate with our engineer for a preliminary decision on whether or not they have to submit.
Okay.
Okay, and that decision stands. Our engineers working for us, he or she will go out there and say, no, this is one you have to do a plan on.
Right.
And then they do the plan at their cost, and they also pay our cost of our engineer. Say, and so we're not incurring that cost. They have to pay both sides. Then they can go out and get an engineer to do the wetlands delineation with qualifications, or they can hire our engineer to do the work. And then there's a real close connection.
It's a one-stop shop,
right?
Yeah.
And they pay all the freight on all the stuff. And you trust your engineer to do the work for you, whether they're doing the original work or they're reviewing the other person's work. And they come in and make a representation that this is good. Okay? Issues that Dan's talking about, everything you guys are talking about, I almost want to stand and applaud. Is this you got it nailed, okay? On what we do. And Dan's right. You're going to have to be really cognizant of the fact that the buffer, and use buffer because the way in which setbacks and buffers work is if you have a setback for the distance from the property line, and then you have it's called the setback for the wetlands. The wetland could be in the inside and then pushes the house even further back. So call it a buffer. That's confusing to call them two setbacks. Okay? One's a buffer, one's setback. That's minor. But the distance that you pick is going to be critical because, for example, 66 conifer at night, if you had a 25-foot setback from the wetlands, anything will happen. Okay, we had the 15 wilderness. 15 wilderness. Because they're building right to the edge of the wetland because our number is what? Zero, right? So once you set the number, you're going to be impacting these kinds of projects to a significant degree if it's 25 feet. If it's 100 feet, forget about it. You're going to have so many variants per plus that your head's going to blow up. So 10 might make sense.
I don't want it to be so onerous that I think what Breck did here in allowing that exception is ideal because we have a lot of really weird lots, right? And someone can fit a little A-frame on it. But what we don't want to see is like an A-frame with 2 additions and then they're coming in for a detached garage. Because, hey, I got a lot and some dude a mile away has got a garage too, and I need that. So, we have this protection in place, but it can't be so onerous that it's impossible. But nobody should be digging a 1/4 inch from wetland, especially with slope. How do we get the slope in there? Because if you're digging 12 feet above,
Well,
it's no impact.
Do you have to specify a number, or can you basically do a case-by-case basis based on your expert? Because if you're on the top of a hill and there's wetland a foot away, a lot different than at the bottom of the hill with the wetland a foot away. And so, you set these numbers that might protect most areas, but then it becomes so onerous. So could you just say, again, it's, I don't know, have some minimum, but that you can extend that, I don't know,
That's the exception.
Based on the evaluation.
It's the exception. Here's how that would work. You'd say it's got to be 25 feet. I'm making 12 feet. But if our engineer, finds that the topography, all the engineering talk lingo is met, he or she's authorized to grant an exception. They shrink it down.
And so they don't need to go for a variance there. It's up to the engineer.
But if you're at that magic number, you're 25 feet, and you can spit to the to the water or soggy soil, then the engineer would say, "Hey, no."
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly right. You're going to have to rely upon your engineer.
Right.
He's going to have the qualifications because it's better than you got today. We're not going to hire an engineer. We can avoid the cost of an engineer by doing what we're talking about. But we don't have the ability to pick somebody, hire them, and have them charge us to do the work that we want the developer.
Right.
So we'll set it up that way. That person's gonna have a lot of authority, just like the engineer in Breckenridge has to grant exceptions, right? You're gonna do the same thing. Just the person who's gonna make the exception is somebody out there.
Right.
Can you pick? It can all be done. Everything you're talking about, everything that Mr. Mannon's talking about, you can do all of it. You just have to simplify it because you don't have the ability to administer it. Don't go zones, don't go different impact zones. Call them wetlands, they're all wetlands the same, okay? But your engineer will take into consideration whether it's a serious wetland or not serious.
Right.
He's setting the setback and giving the
And
exception.
all the variations in between.
So you push it on somebody else that you live with that call.
Now, in my world, people love to push liability. If we give the engineer that authority, then they take the liability for those decisions. And are we going to find somebody that's willing to do that if that is the case?
The way in which good issue has been brought up, the way it's handled is our contract with that engineer will grant them a defense from suit. So we will stand up for them and defend them if anybody sues them for try to stick with liability. We also have the ability of extending our governmental immunity to them. For example, we have governmental immunity for a lot of things that government does, right? And that umbrella of immunity, it goes over here. Okay? It doesn't go here. You didn't agree with me that you would cover me. But all your staff is covered with immunity. You're covered with immunity. The town's covered with immunity. So sometimes when people sue us, they can't win. They can't bring a suit. It's called immunity. You'll try to extend that to this contractor like you do for your staff. You'll make them kind of a staff member, and the contract will say you're covered with our immunity. That will give any contractor comfort to go forward because you're going to stand up and defend. Okay? And you'll probably play them.
So we want to get a good contract, a good engineer, because now we're taking their liability. Well,
That's true. But at the same time, they may never get sued because if they're immune, the lawsuit can't go anywhere. So we'll be happy about that. One thing that's detrimental in going this route that I'm talking about is there's probably not that many engineers in a circle around here that have qualifications, and you're taking one of them away to hold them here. So you're limiting the developer's ability to go find somebody. And so you might have,
And it's going to be the easiest for him to continue with working with.
makes it's incentive for him to work with us. We trust that person to make the call for us. So that developer would be an idiot
Not to say. I guess my only thing is I'd go probably 15 feet. I think 10 feet, I mean, that's from me to the podium is 10.
And that's more than 10. Yeah, I mean, think about a stick of pipe. Stick of pipe is from the podium, not even probably to this, I bet you. Doug knows, you guys are wood guys.
Like 12.5.
Yeah.
Work the number later. Okay?
Yeah.
Because you're going to draft this regulation, and that regulation may give you comfort to go small, or may give you comfort to go large.
I think 15's nice number.
Huh?
15's a nice number.
Do I have 20?
Let's make that decision later.
Yeah, okay.
So in the meantime, Bob, this isn't a pending ordinance, and I don't know that I want to do any more emergency moratoriums, right? But I'd like to see things protected because they're not. It's not appropriate what we got. We've had a lot of protection through the river easement, but apparently we didn't have enough.
Yeah, moratorium would be very difficult on something that is so complicated. It's easy when it's just something like moratorium on subdivision. It's easy. Moratorium on wetlands with a bunch of other bell ringers in there about how you define wetlands and all sort of stuff. It's complicated because just saying you can't build near a wetland for a while, moratorium, you're gonna have to define what the wetland is. You're gonna do some of the work anyway. Otherwise, how's that moratorium work? The developer come in and say, it doesn't apply to me because that's not wet. And you say, yes, it is a wetland. Well, now we gotta go out and have proof of what the wetland is. So it gets complicated.
I think I could, if I had done my homework prior to 2 months ago, I would have argued well enough maybe to sway a couple people in this room. Because I think our code, as weak as it is, has enough language in there that talks about wetlands and protection. And we could have at least said, yeah, this is, So
You should remember that when we rolled out the land use code in 23, one of the specific things I hit the board with was the fact that it did not do much on environmental condition regulation because you didn't have much in the old architectural guidelines. And I stayed as close as I could to what you used to do. I just drafted it as the law as opposed to guidelines, right? So I stuck close to that. So a lot of things in there I don't agree with today because they were the old architectural guidelines and I just wrapped them in. But I would argue against some of them. We can talk about one or two tonight because it came up. But yes, it is extremely weak on protecting the environment. And the number one thing this town says all the time is it's all about the environment. So you should be emboldened to say wetland protection, river easement protection, tree protection, if you want to go there, sight line, whatever it is. You have that in your makeup of what this community is supposed to be. So take advantage of it because it's very, very weak right now.
So what's our
Well,
best move to not do anything hasty and jump into something that we'll regret, but to,
Move expediently.
yeah.
Well, great deal.
Gordon, go home and draft.
So again, I'm fine, you know, my marching orders, would it be best just to, looking at these three different documents, I can pick headings for topics and put proposed criteria under there. Would that be, like, instead of me I'm not gonna, you're better at writing the law than I am. What would you like me to give you? Like bullets or a document that's fully written?
Typically, I ask for bullet points about what you want. Okay, tell me what you want. I saw this heading here, Bob. I want us to do this, and blah, and vomit it out to me what you want to do. I can convert that into language. Okay, but if you ask me to sit down and take these three documents and boil them into something that it would take a great deal of work.
No. I'm happy to do that. I've volunteered to do that. I'm going to do that. And so for you guys, I spent the most time reading the thing I got off of AI, and I highlighted the red areas that, to me, were debatable. I felt like I've got an opinion, but we got to take a decision. And so why don't, again, if you guys could look at that, you've made a couple of comments. If you have other areas that you would like me to add in from these documents. So, give me some information. I'm going to put something together a little bit more refined, bullets, topics. I was stuck on those red items. So if you give me some feedback, if I don't get any, I'll make my own decision and I'll bring it back to this body to discuss everything in more detail. And then we can pass it off to Bob if you think that's a good process.
I'll probably give you some feedback. I'm going to use the county and the town of Breck. I'm not going to use both. I'm going to decide which one. I like things from both, but I'm going to take the body of the one I like better.
Well,
and then I'll snap out like, I'm going to copy paste with like an arrow and say, I like this here. I'm not against AI, but there's a lot of throw up right there. Like it's, let's have it. That's what AI is to me. It's too much. Like I think I could.
I thought it was read legalese, but
it is. You asked me what my thought on AI. AI is okay if that's the very beginning thing you're going to do. You have to understand what AI is doing is going and reaching out and grabbing anything it can. And so you may ask it, what's the appropriate setback or buffer for a wetland? And there's 5,000 articles that say 15 or 20 feet. And it sees one in Connecticut that's 100. And it grabs 100 and gives it to you. So you've got to be really kind of understanding of how
It's gathering.
It's not
and again, my point in putting that out there in the format, because I totally agree. And in my space, I know how to vet it. The information in this space, I'm not so sure I know how to vet it. But to your point, it's just,
It's
scaffolding, it's something to work from.
But what Dan's talking about is the way to do it. It's basically you cut and paste out of other regulations. I like this, I like that, and you cut and paste, you put in the topic headlines, and then from that, you boil it down to something that works for the town. That's the best way to do it. That's what lawyers do. Okay. We cut and paste from other communities.
Yeah, and then if there's it says 25 feet, and you want 10, red line the 25, put in 10, but you can see it in the,
just keep going your email.
So, so my goal, unless you guys said a different one, would be to gather information in our next meeting, give you something with these bullets, and we can debate it at the next meeting if that's.
Yeah, let's get it ahead of time now so we can
Okay,
distill it well, you know what I
so
mean?
I'll try to
Like
get,
not day out.
okay. Get you know, maybe like a week ahead of time, because it's gonna take me some time to get this together. Okay, good. We good with that?
Thank you.
Yep.
A quick rundown of D.
Yep.
Garage and large sheds.
Can I tell you my thoughts real quick? Because
Yeah.
this is an area, the garage area is one that I recognized when we did the Langley code. And really not complicated, but maybe not the best in the old architecture guidelines. They fold it over. But let me tell you this. Having a garage in the front of the house is not uncommon. Okay, it can be done correctly. Dan picked out, it's actually, if it's attached, it should be much more acceptable. Okay, I'm putting an offering on the house, it's got a garage at the front, but it's side loaded. Okay, so it's not garage doors, it's the garage, the window, and doors. And that's what you see. There's nothing wrong with that being the front facing part of the house. I like that house. And so I was thinking through this, it's like, we need to have more common sense garage regulations that do things like, yeah, if you're gonna put one in front of the house, it's okay, but it has to be off to the side, side loaded, or whatever you decide the right way. You know, you could require a window, you know, to be on the side of the garage, so it looks like a house, like a garage. There's ways to do it so that the flexibility is given to the owner. Like tonight, this garage that he wanted to propose, as you said, could have been pushed back and side loaded with the window, and it would look okay.
Right.
Okay? We need to get to that kind of common sense approach.
Because I agree. I think architecturally you can make anything look good. You know, it doesn't necessarily look like a garage.
But does it need to be detached or, attached?
You would need to.
To side load?
I think you want to think about regulations that apply to attached versus detached.
Yeah.
Detached, way away from the house. And by the way, tonight this application pushed it away from the house because it is going to be a second unit. They
Yeah.
are going to be second.
100%.
So you don't want it near them, right?
Exactly.
That's what they're doing, right? But you slide it back. If it's detached, you slide it back so it looks like it's part of the house. That's fine. And there's different standards for that. But if it's on the house and it's extending from the house, you might have different regulations on that.
Right.
We got to go through those.
I don't know that it needs to be side loaded if it's attached. Because a lot of nice houses have a garage.
If it's attached.
Kind of like that, the conifer one. It was bumped out, but it was
Right.
totally attached. It doesn't look weird.
Right.
You know?
It wasn't like that at the beginning. I saw the original drawings for that.
Well, that thing was the house that came through a long time, a couple of
I
years
don't
ago.
know if it did come through here. Brian drew it,
Oh.
but I saw it at one point. And I go, that's not gonna fly.
In some communities,
really?
they address this issue of attached garage, having the front doors facing the street is okay, as long as they have these regulations that basically say if you look at the entire front of the house and the garage only takes up so much of your visual space.
Right.
Okay, it's not like it's all garage, and the entry door's over here, and the rest of the house is back here.
Right.
So it's like it's a garage, not a house.
Right.
And so they have regulations that say garage is okay here, if the rest of the front of the house basically makes a secondary view. And that's okay if it's front. Okay. The side loaded, you actually put your fingers up and say, great, you look, right? Because you're not going to see the garage. We need to be more flexible.
Yeah.
So we should be more flexible, or we should be changing the code to be more
Changing the
flexible?
code,
To make it more flexible.
Allow people to do kinds of things that this guy talked about, but basically the way you modify it, push it back as detached, right? If it's attached to the house, great. If it's side loaded, you love it. If it's not side loaded, make sure that it doesn't predominate. It's not the predominant visual feature on the house, right? We can draft regulations like that. And speaking to the issue of, oh, it's kind of vague, but it doesn't really define the word. Dan hit 2 or 3 times tonight. You have the interpretive authority to say what the words mean, unless they're defined. And we can't define every single word in land use code. What we do is we define those that we really know how to define. The rest of it is English language and your interpretation. You can't, the law says this, if it's not defined in the regulation, then the common dictionary is resorted to. Okay? The common meaning. We say something, you look to the dictionary to say what it means. And you have the interpretive authority to kind of model that a little bit. Okay? I think I'm going to say it means this. If you guys say it means that, the law protects you in the sense that it gives you it tells us that we are entitled to interpret our laws because we wrote them. Okay, so there's a presumption that our interpretation is correct. The law says that's what you're asked to do as planning and zoning commissioners. It's not vague. It's leaving to you the decision to figure out what those words mean. Okay, if it doesn't regulate something that you think should be regulated, that's a fault of the code. And we say we need to add something to do this. If you look at the code and there's words in there like predominant. Tonight we heard the issue predominant. What does that mean? Well, look in the dictionary. Okay? It's not defined in the code. Look in the dictionary. It's going to tell you basically more than 50%, right? And so you're allowed to do that kind of stuff. You're asked to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, to me, the garage one is maybe another work session to discuss. But sheds is also on there. I think there was always a question mark as to why we were allowing a large or a small or two smalls. And, you know, I don't have a really strong feeling about this. I think this was just bad administration because it was like, oh shit, we did something and we shouldn't have. Let's write a code that says it makes it okay.
That's exactly right.
And that's, so I don't know that what we ever had was bad, you know?
What we originally had,
Right, originally.
the 200 square feet or below was considered a shed.
Right.
I remember it, in theory, supposedly looking similar to, or
Similar colors. and
colors and even
Design.
design, you know.
Trying for that.
So if you have a house like this, you don't want a shed that has a.
And then I always thought that there was nothing wrong with having two sheds.
Two
Because
smalls.
two small sheds. Because one could be for your snow blower and all that, one could be for your dirt bikes or whatever, and you know.
But it was under 200.
Yes.
200 or under.
Then somehow it became one big 400, and that was where that was.
Yeah, so that's currently the large shed is up to 400.
I don't know where.
I think it was
I got
over
it here.
400.
Huh?
I think it got to where it was anything
It's a
over.
garage, but
Yeah,
and we don't allow
Yeah.
parking of motor vehicles, although, on my computer.
Yeah.
They had motor
Then it's
vehicles,
allowed
but
to get-
that was because a car was parked in. I mean, if you had dirt bikes,
25 or
these
250, that's 10 by 25. It's like, you squeeze a car.
And that's why the regulations say you can't use parking vehicles because it becomes a garage.
Yeah.
But toys should be.
yeah,
We allow
toys
dirt
like
bikes.
Boats.
off-road vehicles,
Motorcycle.
motorcycle,
Yeah, that was specifically.
boats. You know.
So
What do we want to do there?
I mean, I'm good with 200 square feet or under and up to 2.
Yeah, I think that's a good easy one.
And here we go to interpretation again. The shed must bear or include architectural features found in the structure,
Yes.
including things such as roof, color, siding,
Yes.
materials. So it's not going to look different. It can be different, but
Yeah.
not substantially different.
Yeah.
And you get to decide whether or not it meets that standard. But I can't define the standard, but I can give you the authority to say, yes, it looks enough like the house.
And we're giving that responsibility to Chad or the town manager. Because that one doesn't.
Because it doesn't have to come
Come through us.
as long as they're meeting that criteria.
I just need to update, Deputy Clerk John handles shed related items, and that would be, I just need to update him on his criteria for review.
So you can't go and buy a 150 square foot plastic shed from Costco.
Well, you can,
But you aren't gonna be putting it up.
I'm not going to get a permit.
Right. And if you do put one up, and if the officer sees it or who's ever policing it, then you go knock on the door and say, sorry.
So it's
return it.
registered boat.
So currently, small shed is up to 200.
Yeah.
Not 250. And the large shed is 201 up to 400. I mean, I think like just one shed and call it like 250.
Because we were going it was always 200 forever.
Was it?
Yeah, because I had to
Yeah.
keep it at 12. I was like, I remember when I built one, I had to be like 12 and a half by 16 or 12 by 16.
And that was
And then I
kind
had
of
to shrink
started
it
with the
like a
county.
tree, so I had to proportionally shrink it to make it look right.
Well, it started with the county, and that was where you didn't have to have a permit to build a a shed under 200 square feet.
Got it.
Or 200 or less.
Got it.
And that's where it started. And then somehow, well.
And then anything above that, you need a permit.
Yeah.
Does that sound?
Yeah, that
I
that
don't think we got that. It's permanent for everything.
I have yet to encounter.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, you need to come to our, group and present it if it's over that.
The whole regulation that we have is a cluster. We use our legal thing, because it was drafted by Michelle based upon problems that she had on specific properties.
Just trying to
It's not the way drafted.
fix it, but.
Yeah, we're trying to fix things out there. And then when you try to fix it, you draft for those issues, it complicates everything else. You gotta draft it for what you want to see. If I look at a property, that property can have a shed, it can be 200 square feet, and they have a great day, have a nice day.
Just
Right.
repeal and I like the
So-
ordinance because the computer's dead.
So
It was like
it's
2025
a B type, it requires a B type permit, whether it's a small shed, large shed, or greenhouse. All of them need a B type permit.
Yeah.
Currently.
The reason the permit's valuable is because you don't want it in a setback. So you need to be able to see a site plan. That's the key. Otherwise, people are like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, because we've been directing for sheds. I guess we have not seen a shed over 200 because John has not ever done something over 200 square feet. And that must have been, the last one must have been under Michelle's.
It was because of a car parked in the shed.
Well, and then what's his name's on Highway 9?
Oh, yeah, and then,
Yeah,
Rob
yeah.
Otterman accidentally built his.
And that's
He
been-
thought
This
it was
is,
too
and this
big.
is like right up to his, it's gotta be right up to the lot line.
Rob's?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He said it's within the setback, it's like, there's no way.
Where's the site plan?
I mean, there's no way, it's like, it's right up against Highway 9.
Right.
That section of Highway 9, because I live across the street, it's 150-foot right of way there. Half of my yard is right of way.
Yeah.
My house is technically 13
You
feet
too.
off my property line.
Yeah. Well, not
Not
in
there's
there's
like
house, but it's
50
way
feet
down
up to
where
the
you
road.
wouldn't expect it.
No.
Steep.
Remember when Rob first bought that property and then he slowly
Yeah,
I helped build it.
How do you
Famous
wanna go
garage.
about
Do
it?
we need to
Are
make a
repeal?
motion or how do we?
Well, the board is the one who's gonna adopt.
Yeah,
it,
we
right?
just,
So
Yeah.
we would just recommend.
we just need to
Recommend
make a
language.
recommendation.
Okay. So, those
So-
recommendations.
Up to 2 sheds,
2 sheds,
not exceeding 200 square feet. Color, design,
Location,
Magic.
location.
size, appearance, and 3 things that you go after on these kind of regulations.
You want us to crack at it and then hand it to you, or do you want to crack at it?
Great, we have the garage stuff's in 2 different sections.
Right.
Sorry. It
Let's
needs
keep
to be put into one, okay, and needs to address those elements.
So anything over the 200 comes to the planning and zoning and they have to, it's a totally different permit like Chris said.
Yeah, well, I mean, that essentially with the shed,
It's,
I think it's essentially eliminating large sheds.
yeah,
right,
And that,
So there
that's
isn't.
pretty much,
yeah.
yeah,
Pretty
there
much it.
isn't anything to come in front of us because there's no large shed.
I agree
Right.
with that.
And next thing you're gonna do
Here's
is
a garage.
That's form and function of garage.
Yeah.
In most
Fair enough.
circumstances.
Yeah,
So we revisit the garage,
does it,
but that whole, the large shed goes away and we just do what Bob ran.
It's not a complicated thing.
So that,
I
just-
just take that code section and like redline it and send it to you guys. You go in.
and that you'll just bring up to the trustees and they're like, yeah, that works.
We ain't getting that on this one.
yeah, so I mean, the sheds, it already requires that they not be located
June's pretty
within the setback. And they should not be located where the shed would conflict with the purpose and intent of a lawful easement or other encumbrance. And then there's just the 2 definitions, so essentially if we,
It's easy.
I mean, it's just eliminating the large shed definition,
Ultimately, it's gonna
strike that off.
combine with garage, but we don't have to solve that.
Yeah, design standards, it's encouraged to be consistent, with the principal permitted building on the same lot.
And that I see
That's-
being
that's-
violated a lot.
And that's why you can change it to shall share architectural features.
Yes.
Colors, height, pitch, roof pitch,
Yeah.
with the primary structure. Tells you right there that I gotta make it look like the house.
Yeah.
What we drafted there with some of it came out of the design guidelines. It is vague, it is too open.
right.
It's encouraged.
So
should not.
when you're encouraged.
My house identifies as a plastic shed, so.
So do I.
So just real quick, this isn't critical. But RC zone district 2025-05, just an FYI, it is not in the code. Like 16A510, that was the verbiage, but it was never codified. And it probably came after the April 2nd update or whatever. I really don't know, and it doesn't even matter. But you might want to look at that because nowhere in our code is it found. And so you gotta then go to like ordinances that are adopted, and that's not.
We would want it codified before we start applying to properties, so people find it.
But it's been adopted.
It's just hanging out there.
Right.
It's
It's less important because it's RC zone district, but there's probably a couple other ones. I didn't study it. Now, you may know about it, but I'm happy to email you that, but I was like, whoa, that was, all right. Anybody else? You were gonna talk about variances, were we messing it up?
Oh, I want you to know that we pitched to the board of trustees that we need to simplify the variance criteria. The ones that we have in there are really good, but they are not working for you in a community like this, because common one that is your predecessor or you can't have made decisions that now require you to have a variance, like you put the house in the wrong place or your driveway or something like that. We, in this town, need to lighten that up, because you shouldn't hold it against the variance requester the fact that this town was platted in the old days, in the 60s,
Right.
in small lots. A small lot platted back then was done by their predecessors, so they can't ever get a variance. We should take it to the small lot platted by the predecessor back then, which was legal, is not going to be a criteria that we hold against them. The small lot created by the original platter is not going to be called something that my predecessor did. We got to write these things to fit more of the kind of variances that we get. They still should not be easy to get, but they should not have some of the language that we have in there. You're getting too complicated. You guys know, because you've been trying to apply it, right? That's why I did that little explanatory, kind of interpretive thing. But I told the board we need to change it up a little bit. So you'll see coming forward, it'll come to you first. You'll see change in language for variances.
Still six
Could be 5.
Okay.
I'll tell you, one of my communities has 13.
Oh, geez.
And you know how many people get a variance?
We still be.
Is it always must meet all, or?
No, it can be these must be met and these are secondary. You can do that. But variances have traditionally supposed to be hard to get, because you're changing for one
We
property.
made them easy for a while.
We did.
We did. We were making them,
We felt guilty. And
yeah,
Well, it's very difficult. It is very hard to say no.
right. Not so
But
much
it's-
anymore.
Well,
Get to that point where I don't care anymore.
when it's,
You can have 3. You can have 3 criteria.
I don't know.
Show me that you got a physical hardship. Okay. Not extraordinary, not difficult language, but show me you got a hardship that you didn't create and you're not injuring your neighbors.
Right.
It can be simplified.
Doesn't need to be I don't think too simple.
Yeah.
But you can always say yes, but sometimes you need a way to say no.
Right. That was the hard one. To start saying no.
well, are we 8 right now?
Oh, you are. It's on your desk right there.
I mean, it part of the hard part too was it's just on the next subdivision over, which was like 300 yards away, was the other one that we.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I
That
can
one
see
was more blatant,
right in front. Really,
right?
not.
But it was.
Make motion to adjourn.
Real quick, I had forgotten to add this to the agenda, the matter of the motion for reconsideration. We should at least touch on this before adjourning, just due to the P and Z bylaws that were adopted in 2021. Is there anything in particular, Bob, that you want to touch on that would be?
Yeah. The most, in rules of order, we adopted my rules of order that I drafted, the book. The motion for reconsideration is the most difficult of motions. What it does is this: y'all make a decision, okay, and then later on, one of you think you made the wrong decision. So you want to bring it back. You want to bring it back and talk about it some more. and maybe make a different decision. You could make the same one. So how do you do that? The rule requires both Robert's Rules of Order, which are too complicated, but Bob's Rules of Order also use the same criteria that everybody uses, which is only a person who voted in the majority, the winning side, so to speak, can make that motion. What that does is, if it's a 6-1 decision by you, it means that the person who voted 1 can't ask for a motion for reconsideration because you guys were 6-1. So the people who lost can't bring it up. People who won can bring it up. And you bring it up as a motion. It takes 2/3 majority vote. Okay? You have to be serious that you want to reopen this thing. Okay? Because this applicant usually, who got approval and went home and had a glass of champagne, are now dragged back in, and he might lose his approval. So you want to make sure you guys are serious that you're going to do that. The other thing we have to do is that we have to not issue building permits during the period in which you can reconsider. So an applicant can get approval one night. You guys go home and think about it. You come back at the next meeting and somebody makes a motion for reconsideration and you approve it. Now you're going to have another meeting with notice to the applicant. Okay. So you're putting this guy off or her off for 60 days or so. We're not going to issue permits to them until all this stuff, this timeline's gone. And so initially, we're not going to issue permits for at least 30 days because you could bring up the motion at the next regular meeting. We got to hold off, can't issue. So what I'm going to propose is that if you want to ever have the right to reconsider, that we do it this way: that 2 people on the prevailing side have to contact the town manager within 10 days or 5 days of the decision. That will tell him not to issue permits. Otherwise, he's going to issue permits after that 5 or 10 days. That way, the applicant's not being held up because you have the chance to reconsider. You have to pull the trigger to reconsider right away. That's fair, and that doesn't hold up the builder, the developer, unless y'all really want to talk about it. And it's a complicated motion to make. Bob's Rules tells you exactly how to make the motion. It's got to be 2/3 majority. It's got a prevailing side. All these bells and whistles that are not in any other motion, because it's a damn serious motion to do. You really,
And that's done in between the meeting where you said yes, but before the next meeting.
yes,
Yeah.
5 days after that decision.
But what if let's say all 5 of us say yes, and then after, tomorrow we're like, oh my God, what did we do? And 2 of us call up Chad. Then we do that.
Then he holds off issuing permits. He
Yeah.
did it within 5 days, let's say.
Yeah.
He holds the permits at the next meeting. You can also have a special, but your next meeting, you're going to say, I move to reconsider this project. And if you pass 2/3 majority, it's back on the table. The vote that you made is gone, but you're going to reconsider it again. Blah, 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 and make a new motion. It could be you approved before, and now you're going to deny. It could be you approved before, and now you're going to approve again. But you talked out through the issue. That's the way it happens. It's a rare motion. Should be rare because it really disrupts a lot of what's going on.
Is there any liability in that to the umbrella or,
If it's written, the law says if it's written down, the thought that it's the due process. If it's written down, you're following the process.
Okay.
If you make it up and say, no, let's do this. Let's change that decision. You have to show the court that it's written somewhere that you're allowed to do that. It's an important piece. If you want to know more about that, you can read Bob's Rules. But it's one that you should take seriously and only pull the trigger when you really have a problem. I've attended, calculated out, well more than 2,500 meetings in my 37 years. Okay? Or it's probably a lot more than that. In those meetings that I've attended, I've seen maybe 5 motions for reconsideration. That's how rare it is. And each one of them were serious. For example, one of them we had, people left and they said, wait a minute, we just got information from somebody else that there's environmental contaminations on the site. We didn't know that. We need to open this thing back up and talk about that. So they did a motion for reconsideration. They farmed it out to an engineer, not an engineer, but a land use person who came back and said, yeah, they have had these 55-gallon barrels in that pond since the 1800s or whatever it was. And yes, there's problems there. And you didn't know about it, but yet you approved development right on top of it. Okay? And so they reopened it, they talked about it, they placed some conditions of mediating or remediating the project, and then went forward and gave approval with the condition. That was a great protected the health, safety, and welfare of the city. So it can be, need to be done seriously.
Do we have that in place for us or no?
You have it in place today.
Oh, okay.
But
Has it always been there?
No.
No, okay.
So you don't.
we currently have until the next meeting to request for the motion to reconsider. And so as I understand it, that's the real challenge, is to delay. We want to delay the permitting until our window to do the
Well, that's why he's
reconsideration.
saying
But
like
but right now it's 30 days. That's how it's written currently. So, and we're not holding off on the permit right now. So we
I
want
don't think you can get a permit right after that, right? Because there's an
It is.
appeal period that's like 5 days, 5 business days. So you're not issuing a permit till after there's an appeal period.
and that's 5 days. So
I believe
but if you get
well, they're still, they have to submit final.
Right.
Yeah, by form and function of the building plan submittal, it by default is at
It's-
minimum 5 days.
Right.
But
I'm pretty sure
yeah,
you wouldn't
it
issue
would be-
before
yeah.
an appeal period would be allowed.
Because once you issue that permit, I told you earlier before that you vest your rights when you pull nails, you start building. So you don't want to let them start building and then come back and try to change your decision. Then you're really at liability. Okay, so we don't want to issue a permit because it places us in a difficult position, especially if you change the decision.
Okay.
So if we want to continue to have the decision, we really need to shrink that period of time that we have to consider.
Right,
And
and that's
that's-
fair to the applicant, you know,
Yeah,
so you're not holding the applicant up for
Nah, you
20,
want it.
25
And,
days.
and Bob, you mentioned that you could even hold a special meeting to even do it prior to the following month.
Right. The current rules say this is what everybody follows. It has to be done at the next regular meeting, so you can't do a special.
Oh,
I'm proposing that we take Bob's rules, and there's a way in which you can amend it, it's in the front of the book. We're gonna amend that rule, that motion, to be as we talked about, the 5 days, 2 people,
Yeah.
no permits issued. If the 5 days pass and you guys don't call the manager, he's gonna issue permits.
Right.
Okay? So I'll put that all in there, still stick to the 2/3 majority vote. Because that's really, you have to be serious about it. Can't be a majority, because if it's a close vote, say it's 4-3 vote, and then one person decides, I want to reconsider it, it's only one in the rule, now you make it 2, then you could change, one person can change the entire vote. You want to make sure that everybody wants it to bring it back. 2/3 is big, right? That means we all want to talk about it, not just one extra person.
and it has to be the vote of the majority.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna revise the rule, we'll keep the rule. Okay, but it's gonna be specialized.
Good know we have
Go Widener. Yeah.
it.
Boy, I knew we had the right
Go buy
guy.
the book.
Can it go the other way where 3 of us vote against it, so it's down, but then 2 of us that vote against it, like, well, maybe we shouldn't, can it go both?
It can go,
Both
prevailing
ways.
side to deny the project.
Yeah.
Can bring it back.
Okay.
Okay. Look, CML selling this thing for like $15. So I gave the rights to distribute because I don't want to make money
Oh,
off of it. And they're out there making money off it. So, I was trying to get a nice.
You should revisit that one.
Well, I'm actually to reconsider.
Yeah.
I'm actually changing, this is called 4 Colorado local governments because I call it law on it. I'm doing a national. And then I will.
There you go. So you can buy that house with that attached garage. Make motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.